Why, hello, good morning, and welcome to Bill Riccardi's Weekly Patreon Update. I, of course, am Bill Riccardi, a creator and purveyor of fantasy novels. What do we have in the pipe this week? Well, we've got the third book of the Ihy Saga, and that's rolling right along. We'll talk a little bit about the creation process and how it's flipped around a little bit. We'll also talk about a potential surprise release. Could be as soon as next week. No promises, but I'll give you a few details on that. And then what's going on for the weekend plans, and the conditions here in Belfast. So, let's start at the start. The third book of the Ihy Saga, which will remain nameless for at least a few more weeks, it's going quite well. Cadence, if you'll remember, was a relatively fast write for me. And the reason was I was taking my time on the action scenes to really nail down some of the details, but the social scenes, the training scenes, the story progression was going quite quickly for me. I was able to really get all that down. It's flipped around for the third book, and I think the reason is this: the climactic scenes in this book are not all in the combat. There are two semi-climax / climaxes of the book that take place during combat. But there are just as many, I would say, that are non-combative major points that need to be driven home. And the other reason why the non-combat scenes are taking longer than the combat scenes, I mean, I cranked out the two combat scenes so far in no time at all. But the non-combat scenes are taking a little bit longer. The second reason is there is a gap, about, I want to say 7-month gap, between the end of Cadence and the beginning of the next book, which I almost spoiled the name of. We'll avoid doing that. But that 7-month gap means we have to make some subtle revelations as to what's happened. We have to catch everyone up. And one of the best ways to catch people up is reunions. And so we have a reunion. And that's what I'm going to finish writing today. And then immediately get into one of the big emotional climaxes of the book. One of the first ones. And it's very different to have that kind of peak early on. Because this is very much a third movie syndrome. And the Ihy Saga is not a trilogy. It will continue after this, but the issue here is that there's a lot to pack in, and with that 7-month gap, there's a lot to expose. So I'm taking my time with the non-combat scenes this time and making sure everything gets in there and that the emotional investment is there. And we will continue to do this, throughout the upcoming weeks. And then when I have a first draft, I'll go back and review and make sure the balance is good between combat and non-combat, between exposition and action. So there you go. That's what's going on with that book, and it's coming along quite well. We've got our 10K quotas every week, and we're hitting them quite easily. So, what's this about a possible surprise release? Well, that surprise release is a surprise. To me, particularly. This book has been through editing hell, production hell. I have shopped it to 3 different publishers now, all of which wanted different changes and what have you. And all of whom, in the end, didn't want to continue with the project for one reason or another. The first couple, because they didn't think they could find the audience. The second decided they didn't want a traditional publishing arrangement, which is sad because I really looked like for a time that we were going to get traditionally published on this one. But then they said, no, this is too much of a risk. We're going to move towards a hybrid arrangement, and you'll have to pay for editing up front. And I couldn't do it. I don't do that. I'm either self-publisher or someone's going to take the full brunt of the advertising, and they're going to take the risk with me. If they don't take the risk with me, that's it. But But, I had already made changes to the book based on what they wanted, so I then had to go back and mesh those with other changes that had been made and other suggestions, and mush them all up into something, and then re-edit the book so that it came out as a single solid narrative. But it's done, and now that that's done, I'm looking at working on creating my own cover for it in a genre that I've never touched before. So if this happens, which I can't guarantee, but if it happens, you should get an announcement next week and a sudden book release. That will include, of course, all of the normal patron benefits. You'll get, copies of X, Y, and Z. The one difference is I'm not sure about physical copies of the book just yet. This is a new genre for me. I'm going to have to see how the digital release goes for this. But it being a bonus book, I'll send you, your digital copies in whatever format you prefer. If it turns out that this becomes popular enough that there's a demand for physical books, we'll circle back. I'll make sure that the people who need physical books as part of their tiers get physical books as part of their tiers. I don't have it designed yet for physical, but I can do that if the demand is there. But let's start with the electronic one, it being a bonus, and we'll move on from there. More news on that next week. That's it from me. Chilly here in Belfast. 1 degree when I woke up. Crazy stuff. Got the heater on. I'm sitting right next to it. The cat's curled up right down there, Loki. And he's absorbing the warms as well. So if you're in my hemisphere, please stay warm and make sure you stay hydrated. If you're in the southern hemisphere, please stay safe and hydrated, because of course right now, particularly in Australia, we've got issues. If you are down there in Australia, please stay safe. Keep fresh water handy nearby. If you see any animals in need, please report them to the proper folks who are doing the rescues. Or if you feel comfortable and safe doing so, make that rescue yourself. And, if not, make sure you get a qualified professional on the case. That's it from me. We'll catch you next week, and stay safe out there. Cheers.